I'm John Elbert with Canyon Ministries, standing on the south rim of Grand Canyon. You know, there's roughly 6 million people from all over the world that come here to enjoy Grand Canyon. And they come to a place such as this because of the beauty that you can see behind me. This place is absolutely magnificent, stunning in color and in landscape and in texture. In fact, the landscape of our entire world has a beauty to it that we invest vast amount of time and money to go and to travel and vacation and enjoy. But when we view the Grand Canyon through a biblical perspective, we recognize that the landscape of Grand Canyon, the landscape even of our earth as a whole, it is not original creation. In fact, it is the result of this global catastrophic event described in Genesis chapter 6 through 9. But that leads us to something very important for us to consider and to understand. What we're seeing here and around our world is a result of this catastrophic global event that took place during Noah's time and described in Genesis chapter 6 through 9. Now, God had every right to leave the post-flood world a complete and total wasteland, but He didn't. He wove incredible beauty into that judgment, into that wrath, beauty that we see and enjoy here at Grand Canyon. But when we take just a couple of moments to consider that truth, it becomes pretty profound in what it means. First of all, if God's wrath can be this beautiful, what is heaven going to look like? It's going to make this look like an eyesore. I mean, He's creating that out of love, not out of wrath. But it's also giving us a window into the very heart of God. It's telling us a little bit about the purpose of His wrath and the purpose of His judgment. The purpose of His judgment is not to destroy, but to redeem, to make it new. And that is incredible for us to take time to think about. I mean, even the Apostle Peter tells us that Noah wasn't not just a boat builder, but he was a preacher. He was a herald of righteousness, which means the entire time he's building this boat, he's also going, come on, y'all, let's go. Let's go. The wrath of God is coming, but I got a boat, and this boat has got a door in it. And you know, if anybody at Noah's time, no matter how vile they had been, no matter what they were guilty of, and obviously it was pretty atrocious, if they would have walked through the door of that ark, they would not have been destroyed by that flood. But they rejected that message, and they rejected the door. You know, the Creator of the universe is also our Redeemer. In John chapter 1, verse 14, we discover that the Word, that which created absolutely everything, became flesh and made a dwelling among us. And while Jesus was here, in John chapter 10, verse 9, He says, I am the door. And anybody that walks in through Him is going to be saved. The exact same message. But the question becomes, are we going to learn from history? Or are we this time around going to say, absolutely, I'm going to walk through the door of Jesus Christ and I'm going to be made new? You know, you think about the Israelites, they wandered around for 40 years before they actually got to go into the promised land because they hadn't trusted God. And in Joshua chapter 4, we see this incredible account where they finally get to enter the promised land, but they got to cross the Jordan River. And the Jordan River is at flood stage. So the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant, they've got to go and they've got to put their foot in that raging river. It didn't back up first. They had to trust God that they weren't going to be swept away by that river, but put that foot in, it did. It backed up. And they stood on dry ground in the middle of the Jordan River, and all of Israel passes by, entering into the promised land. But before the Ark of the Covenant was allowed to leave that dry ground, God told the people, go get some rocks, and to take those rocks and to put them in a pile. And the whole purpose of that pile of rocks was a monument to what had taken place. The next generation was walking along in that same area and they saw that pile of rocks. They'd look at their mom or their dad or their uncle or whoever and say, hey, what's up with these rocks? And that was a call out to the older generation to go, let me tell you. Let me tell you about the wonders of God. Let me tell you about the awesome things that happened right here, what that means for us today and what that means for our future. Well, the same is true when people come here. When those people from all over the world travel here to Grand Canyon and look out here, you can't help but look out there and go, well, what's up with the rocks? And when that question's asked, we, God's people, are supposed to have the humility and the courage to stand up and say, let me tell you. Let me tell you about the wonders of God. Let me tell you about the majesty of God and what this landscape means. The truth that God absolutely is going to defend His holiness. He is going to judge sin, but He is a God who redeems, wants you to be made new. He is a God that takes something that is broken and fallen apart and has rebelled against Him, and He makes it a brand new creation. The old is gone and the new has come. That's what God does. That's what this landscape is proclaiming. So when we just take a breath for a moment and look at the landscape of Grand Canyon through the lens of Scripture, we quickly realize that this is not just a canyon. This is a monument to the heart of God, a God who wants you to be made new, a God who came in the flesh into our world to save us and has given us a door of Jesus Christ to walk through so that we could be made new. It's not just a canyon, it's the gospel.